Hello, CBJ fans. Blue Jackets insider Jeff Svoboda here, back with another edition of Where Are They Now, presented by Huntington Bank, where we look back at some of the memorable names and faces for the first 20 years of Blue Jackets hockey. And we certainly have a very memorable name here today. Marc Denis, one of the original goaltenders on the Blue Jackets team, played 5 years in Columbus, including on the inaugural franchise. Marc, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, as I said, we're doing this kind of looking back at 20 years of Blue Jackets hockey, and to me, it's kind of hard to believe that it has been 20 years. You were on that inaugural team. You probably, I'm sure, have some very good memories from those times. But as you look back, is it one of those things that it's hard to believe it was 20 years ago at this time where that inaugural team was on the ice and you were a big part of it?
Yeah, it is. It is hard to believe. Time flies, I guess. A little gray hair will kind of give me away, but no, I was just a young pup in the NHL back then, trying to make my way to being a number one goalie, and very fond memories of Columbus for all the right reasons. I mean, obviously, it was a challenge to build a team from the ground up and to be part of that inaugural team, but just remembering, obviously, becoming a pro, becoming a regular number one goalie, the great memories on the ice and then off the ice, building some friendships that, last a lifetime. Our two sons were born in Columbus. You put all of that together and, obviously great memories.
For sure. And you came over from Colorado, which at the time was, in the late 1990s, so many great names on that team contending year in, year out for Stanley Cups. And you come to a place like Columbus, certainly a lot of excitement for a new team, but it was probably on the ice a little bit of a transition just because of the fact that, expansion teams back in that time, it wasn't like Vegas these days where it was kind of set up to come in and have some success. What was that experience like for you, just coming here to Columbus and knowing things were going to be a little bit different, but also probably knowing, there was going to be a lot of excitement for that inaugural team and you're going to be remembered 20 years later, kind of like this?
I was ready for the excitement. I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew playing, with and, behind Patrick Roy in Columbus, I kind of knew that being a number one goalie was something, far down the road. So from a personal standpoint, even before going to Columbus, I thought this was a good move for my own career. Then obviously you become attached and you're part of the building process and you want this team and this franchise to do good. You learn a lot about, Central Ohio, the people of Columbus. I guess the honeymoon phase there, it never went away. All 6 years and 5 seasons I was there, one cut short because of the lockout. So, all in all, I was ready for that. Obviously, I went from a perennial all-star team in Colorado, always contending, for the cup to, being a young, brand new team without, as you said, the Vegas and the Seattle rules for expansion. So, I thought we made the best of it. No regrets. I wish I would have been still there or would have been able to bring the Blue Jackets, the fans, and all of us players to the playoffs. But I'm glad this franchise continues to have success nowadays.
Yeah, and speaking of that inaugural team, people I've talked to from that team on down, that everyone seems to agree it was a very fun team to be a part of, not just because of the fact that it was so new and there was so much excitement around the franchise, but it seemed as though the guys bonded right away. There seemed to be a real chemistry on that team from the get-go. Was that something that you experienced when you came to Columbus?
It was. It was. I thought it was a family. We gelled quickly. From the veteran leadership that we had and the Ron Tugnutt and the load lines, obviously, and players that have been around and have had success, and Stephen Hines and Jeff Sanderson and Robert Cron, and these are only a few names here. So, Tyler Wright, I could go on and on here and name basically just everyone. And then there was a bunch of young guys that were, I guess, pegged to be somewhat of the future of the franchise for, we all know that the future is, you never look too far ahead in the NHL. So, it was good. It was outstanding. I got to learn from some great veterans. I got the chance to perform as well. And as a team, I think without shocking the hockey world, we did pretty well in that first season. And then we had to go through the learning curves and the growing pains of putting together a team that would have long-term success. All in all, I was very fortunate. My family, we were very fortunate to be in Columbus for a very tight-knit community and a tight-knit team as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned so many of those veteran guys. You were coming over as a bit of a younger guy, had an older guy and Ron Tugnutt, a veteran kind of above you. Just what was it like to kind of fit in? There's some really good pros you named in that group right there. What was it like to kind of try to fit in with that group as you came over from Colorado, where you were probably in a pretty similar situation?
Yeah, it was pretty seamless. Let's be honest. In Colorado, I felt like I was playing in an all-star game some nights with, the sack kicks, the Patrick Roy, Peter Forsbergs, and sorts, and Ray Bork came in. So it was a tad different. No disrespect to anyone when I came to Columbus, but you know what? I thought they really helped us, fit right in. As you said, I already had a little bit of NHL and pro experience, but was still a young player. I wanted, and part of my role on the team was to be supportive for Tugger, for Ron Tugger there early on, but also to challenge him and hopefully become a number one goalie myself. That's a challenge and a role I really embraced. And you know what? He was very generous. He was very generous with me, teaching me, learning the ropes from one of a veteran, a veteran goalie that had been through thick and thin in the NHL, ups and downs, knowing that the glory of victory and the failure and the defeat. So being through all of that, it was awesome. And I think we understood the complexity of the relationship, but we became a tandem, and I thought that was really important, just like it was for everybody else. And we were all in a situation where we knew we weren't Stanley Cup favorites, but we wanted to maybe to cause some surprise, cause some havoc, and try to win some games.
And you certainly did that first year, and then you ended up, being here for 5 seasons. You talked about, kind of the process of becoming a number one goalie. That is something you did do in Columbus, to the point that one season you played 77 games in 2002, 2003. That was a record as far as minutes played at a time. What kind of do you remember about that season and that experience, other than probably a lot of trips to the cold tub and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still knocking on wood up to this day. I was very fortunate to escape major injuries, and that year that was obviously key. Uh, but the travel of being an Eastern time zone team playing in the Western Conference, a grueling 82 game season, kind of one thing led to another, right? You play well early on, you're in the groove, then all of a sudden you hit a speed bump. So the coach wants to turn to his number one goalie, and then there's a coaching change. You're still in there. Now you win a few games. You're trying to hang on. And before we knew it, I had played, I don't know what it was, 60 out of 62 games and on pace to beat an all-time NHL record. So we tried to manage it as well as we could. And, I'm obviously thankful for everything that happened, but that doesn't happen. It's not one man, playing those 77 games. You're playing behind some D, and when you're a group of defensemen, when you're between the pipes for 77 games, you bond. I mean, you become one. There's no doubt. So, I'm very thankful for all of that. Obviously, for the opportunity from management and coaching staff, but also from the support of everybody, really. So there are nights that I probably should not have been in there, but you're a competitor. You're young. You're healthy, and you just want to be there. You lose a game, but you want to be part of the solution the next night. And that's how I approach it. I thought, always, counter back to zero every single day I got up. And that's how I approached it. I'm very thankful for all the support I had.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And as you look back, are there any on ice moments or even off ice moments, certain things about Columbus that kind of stand out as you look back at as you said, 6 years, 5 seasons, certainly some things that have to stand out as you look back over the years that you spent here in the capital city?
Well, so many. The night when, Doug McLean made sure that I was able to be the all-time NHL record at home for minutes played. The linesman doing the fake hole repair on the ice to make sure that people were able to get up and notice and salute this achievement. That was outstanding. But that's a personal standpoint. There were so many great wins. To be able to get the microphone at the end of the season, where we obviously didn't make the playoffs, but some of our leadership group wasn't there, and I held the mic in front of 20,000 people to thank them and to tell them that this franchise would be in good hands for a long time. I didn't know it was going to be gone pretty quickly after that, but all of those are memories that go, to me, they go beyond hockey. To know that I had friends and a tight community in the stands and watching the games, to bring hockey to Central Ohio. To see the grassroots hockey and the junior Blue Jackets at the Ice House, and people really embracing it and getting the feel for their first taste of NHL hockey. I think to be part of all of that was absolutely outstanding, and very thankful for the McConnell family, obviously.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned, so obviously hockey was new here in Columbus. It's really exploded over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it started kind of with that inaugural team and the connection that it made with the fan base there. What do you just kind of remember about your interactions with the fan base and just how that grew from the time? And certainly they were excited to see you guys at the start, but I think they also, they developed a lot of favorites and a lot of relationships as that time went on.
Absolutely. And you know what, I talked a little earlier about being part of the honeymoon phase that never went away for all, 6 years I was there. And I still have that feeling up to this day. And you know what? They were waiting for that team to get to the playoffs. And then they hit a little, speed bump. That you guys had a little speed bump in Columbus, and people were right back in there when the Blue Jackets were ready to make the playoffs and to be a contender for the playoff spot year in and year out, which they are up to this day. So, a lot of pride in that group. A lot of pride in, as I said, in the McConnell family. I think hats off, and everything they did and brought to Central Ohio, to Columbus metro area, outstanding. So yeah, nothing but positive.
Yeah, and is it nice for you to kind of see this team now getting to the point where it is competing in a level that you probably wanted to get it to when you were there? I mean, it's the kind of culture of success has finally been established here 20 years later.
Absolutely. I'm now a TV broadcaster for the Montreal Canadiens. I also oversee hockey operations for the junior team in Chicoutimi in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. But, being a former Blue Jacket would always be part of my DNA. And, I always have a very interested look at results and standings, and to see the team do so well, to see the culture of, and I don't know if we can call it winning, because you don't want to disrespect anybody, because championships are coming eventually, but a culture of not expecting mediocrity, or of never being complacent. I love this. I love the fact that excellence is what everybody strives for. I still have, great, contacts with some, members of the organizations, obviously, and just glad to see, everybody doing well in the team. As you said, no matter who's playing, and no matter if they're losing some all-star players, no matter who they're signing or not signing, you're in for a fight when you're playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's definitely something the fans also enjoy seeing. Also wanted to ask you, and people always have a hard time answering this question because they don't want to point out, just one or two guys. But as you look back, you mentioned some of the players you played with over the years. I'm sure you developed some friendships with some of those players. Are there guys, or there are certain players that kind of stand out as you look back at the time that you spent here in Columbus, whether it was on the ice or off the ice, because there's certainly some characters in there as well.
There are some characters. There's no doubt. Looking at the list of names is pretty amazing. But players that obviously were in my age group, and Serge Aubin, Jean-Luc Grandpierre, Jody Shelley, who basically does the same job as I do with you guys in Columbus that I do here in Montreal. These are players I stayed pretty close with. To think of Luke Richardson, now an assistant coach in Montreal, who was a great friend of mine. We actually, later in our career, connected in Tampa as well. So we've been great friends. So obviously these are only a few names. And as you said, it's really hard because I could go down the list, and you cross paths. Hockey is a small world, and you cross paths with these players 5, 10, 20 years, I guess, now down the road. And there's still that connection. So, the list is obviously too long for me to go down. And then obviously the characters were part of they're part of the stories you tell at night. They're part of the stories you tell, maybe after a beer or two, but nothing for family rated, Zoom calls, but absolutely. I remember those, and these are fond memories as well.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I did want to ask about as well. And we call this "Where Are They Now?" So we do want to ask where you are now, but you did kind of answer it there, doing some TV work up in Montreal with the Canadiens, and then also working in junior hockey. It has to be fun, kind of still having a hand in the game, especially I know when we come up there and you get a chance to see Jody and things like that. It's got to be nice to see some of the guys you played with and have relationships with come through, and it's got to be nice to have that connection to the game still.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the favorite things I do about the job being on TV. It's not about, seeing my face on there. I don't care so much for that, but to be able to communicate my passion, obviously in Montreal, a very knowledgeable fan base, and you want to be fair with the analysis you put forth. So that's really important. But the best part is obviously, as you've mentioned, seeing, traveling to the corners of this great NHL and seeing former teammates and former coaches, and being able to have that conversation with them. And then the hand in the game I really have, because I don't have any effect on the game, being a broadcaster, but being able to oversee hockey operations in junior hockey is quite nice, because I think it's a way for me to give back as well to the junior team that helped me, get propelled to the NHL. So I guess it's a really good combination of both. And, being on the broadcast side as, our sons grew up, I was able to be home a little bit more. And if you're management or coaching in the NHL, where it's not your typical 9 to 5 job. So I've been very fortunate. I'm very thankful for all of this, and I cherish every moment you're part of this great family you call NHL.
Yeah, certainly true. It's the kind of thing that lasts for a lifetime, and that's why we're talking about the good old days, even though they were 20 years ago. Marc Denis, original Blue Jacket, spent 5 years here in Columbus. Great to catch up. Great to see your face, and hopefully we'll see you somewhere down the line when we get back to normal here, and we'll see you back on TV and see you in Montreal and places around the rinks here.
Can't wait. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you.